We'll just monitor the chat as well. Brilliant. Okay. Fantastic. Thank you, Emily. So we might as well kick off. So thank you to everybody for being here for our virtual information session. So the idea of this is really to share with everybody kind of what we're up to as a community, our current projects and future projects. So I'll go through kind of what we're going to go over in a second. But the first thing I'd like to do really is hand over to Cyan, who's really going to just welcome everybody and say a few words, if that's okay. So over to you, Cy.
Yeah, hi everyone. It's really great to see a lot of familiar people virtually. Creating this analog astronaut community has been a work in progress for a while now. And it's exciting to see where we're at. Before the pandemic, we were trying to have an in-person meeting. And, we did a virtual one 2 years ago. And then last year, I guess should say last year. No, wait, we did. Yeah, it was last year, Jazz.
Yeah, the virtual was last year.
Yes. But I was training for space and I wasn't able to attend. I was on Mount Rainier that year. And then we came together for a beautiful conference this past May at Biosphere 2. And it was such a fantastic event. And I love how everybody is just coming together to connect and create this community and to be able to go and come up with projects that we can all be a part of and rally behind and support. And you're going to hear a lot more about that today. And so I'm just so thankful to everybody who has come together to help support the Analog Astronaut Community and Conference. And I'm super excited about where everything is going and all the things that we have coming down the pipeline. And I just want to say a big thank you to everyone who is working so hard on this. And, new space is here, and new space is exciting because, any one of us can be tapped to fly at any moment is the way I like to think about it. This past year has certainly shown that, as we've seen, not only me, but other friends that we know get opportunities that just weren't there before. And that's really exciting. And it makes me think about, all of the opportunities that are going to be happening in just the next couple of years. And then in a decade from now, where we will be. And, being part of the Analog Astronaut community is about, it's about getting flight ready. It's getting connected. It's being informed. It's participating. It's having experiences, shared experiences, whether that's, living in a habitat like high seas or MDRS or Lunaris, or working on research projects and getting united behind ways in which we can become a stronger community and support each other. We all rise together. We all rise literally to space together. And that's really exciting. And one of the big things about the Analog Astronaut community and what I'm passionate about is, how not only what we do here on Earth supports what we're going to be doing out there in space, but what we do in space helps make us more sustainable here down on Earth, and that synergy between Earth and space. And then also, of course, the fact that we are striving for a Jedi space, that I say a Jedi space, accessible, just, equitable, diverse, and inclusive. And, that's a cornerstone for us as analog astronauts. And Jazz, is there anything else you'd like me to add on to this?
No, honestly, that was absolutely beautifully said. Thank you for that fantastic welcome and intro. And just reiterating what you said, really, this is a community for us to share, come together, and it's your community. We are just the custodians. We're just driving for you, but it's a community created by analog astronauts for analog astronauts. And we want, like you said, Cyan, everyone is inclusive. We want everybody to have an equal part to play in this.
Yeah, and I'm gonna try and stay around for a little bit, but I'm double booked at this time, so I can't stay for all of the updates. But I do look forward to following along and connecting with everybody at the next conference next year. That's super exciting, and all of these other projects that are coming down the pipeline that the group is gonna update you on.
Awesome, thank you for sparing some time for us as well. We know you're busy, so appreciate that.
Always.
So, all right, thank you, Sai. Appreciate that. Great. Okay, so brilliant welcome from Cyan. Great introduction. So we'll move on to the next slide, please, Emily, and just go over briefly what we're gonna be talking about today in the session. So this is broadly the topics we'll be talking about. So if you go to the next slide, there's some times on there as well. So this is just loosely the sort of timeline that we're planning on following today. So if you do need to pop out for a few minutes or whatever, and you want to pop back for a specific session, please note down these rough times. We'll try and stick to them as closely as possible. So the introduction you just heard from Cyan is what we're doing at the moment. And then we're going to have a community walkthrough with Bailey in a few minutes. Followed by that, we'll cover a few of the exciting new things for next year's conference, I should say, what we've got planned for now, at the moment. Then we'll be talking about our database project, and Emily will also talk about some standards and training. And then we'll move on to talking about probably our most ambitious project and our longest term project, which is the world's biggest analog. And then hopefully at the end, we'll have time for more Q&A and discussion about the world's biggest analog in particular, but open to discussion about any topics really that we've covered. So without further ado, we might as well kick off with the community site walkthrough. And Bailey, over to you, Bailey.
Cool, thanks, Jazz, and thanks, Cyan. Hi, everyone. Can everyone hear me okay? I was having computer issues earlier. Get a thumbs up, awesome, cool. Let's see. One thing that we're working on right now is, as was mentioned multiple times, is really building up this community. And I'm calling myself the community builder here, and I've got a great group of community builders working with me. So what we're trying to do, the big thing coming down the pipeline, we're building up mighty networks, which I will talk about that in a second, but that's a great way to stay connected on everything going on. We want to work on monthly events, kind of like this, social media presence, writing a newsletter. We have all sorts of ideas coming down the pipeline to really make us feel like a full community, even though, you know, we're all virtual and everything like that. So that's what we're trying to do. And I'm going to go ahead and post the names of the community team in the chat. So if you guys have any questions, you can bug any of them, bug me. I guess I should put my name on that list as well, but you guys get it. So we all can help you with any questions that you have about how to stay connected or anything like that. The biggest thing I really wanted to highlight, which both Jazz and Cyan kind of mentioned, is this really is your community. So if you are waiting for someone to tell you to go post and go do things, this is that invitation. You are now blessed to go do the things, go for it, and take with this community however you want it. Tie us in if you have questions or you need support in that, but that's really the biggest point. So then I wanted to walk through Mighty Networks. So if you guys, actually, Emily, can I steal your screen so I can walk through Mighty Networks on my end? Cool.
Yes.
Maybe on my end. Oh, wow, there's a lot of notifications suddenly. Okay.
Okay, I stopped sharing. You should be able to share your screen.
Cool. Thank you kindly. And so if you're not, can you guys see the Mighty Networks looking good? Awesome. Okay. So if you're not already on here, this is Mighty Networks, 10 out of 10 recommend. And I do have the link for it that I'll post in the chat in a little bit here. Oh, I think we have an open mic, but that's okay. So this is Mighty Networks. This is kind of the analog astronaut community's social media tool, I guess is the best way to put it. This is like where you can just talk to everyone in the AAC community. And so I'm going to walk through this tool. You can get to it on your desktop, but you can also get the app, which I can't obviously do a screen share for the app itself, but the app is pretty straightforward as well. And I'm just going to do a quick walkthrough of how to use all this if you're not on it already. Let's see, the first thing is this is the news feed. And if someone can monitor the chat for me, if any questions come through, feel free to interrupt me. I'm just not going to have the chat open while I go through this. But this is the news feed where things are happening. Like this is a good example. Belinda was like, hey, does anyone know anything about analog suits? And I said something back, and I can't see it right now. But so it's a great way to stay connected. Jazz is posting everything about like this event right here. People are posting, oh, you can kind of see who's joining. This is our Facebook wall, I guess, is the best way to put it. Here's our agenda for today. So this is how to stay connected and just kind of see what's going on in the community. Another cool thing about this is you can be like, oh, I only want to know what people near me are doing that's popular. Oh, wow, that's a really bad example because no one near me is doing anything from my host. So these are just the hosts and moderators for the channel, so you can see what Jazz is posting and stay more up to date with AAC specifically and not just all the other stuff. So you can filter in on what you want to know about, which is kind of nice. If you guys use social media, it's not a complete overflow of everything. Then we've got this Discover tab over here. So we've got top posts, members near you, which is pretty cool. So obviously Trent, I know Trent is near me, but I can see that. I'm in Arizona for those of you that don't know. So Trent and I can go hang out. I have to introduce myself to Liz because now I know Liz is near me. So you can do that for your location and see who's kind of near you. Our member list. I'll talk about the topics in a second. And then here's the featured section of all the big things that are going on. And then I'll talk about Top Explore conferences in a bit too. So let's see. Actually, let's go straight into the topics. If you go down here, we've got the topics. You can sign up for each of these topics. I haven't actually followed any of them. I should. But like, are you wanting to be an analog astronaut and you want to see which analogs are calling for crew? You can follow this, and then you'll get notifications for that. Let's say you're really interested in Lunares. Follow the Lunares and see what's going on there. And so now that'll be higher on my radar. Or you can just jump in and see what's going on. If it loads, and talk through, oh, look, this is the new mission patch, and kind of walk through what is going on for each of the analogs. Let's see. And then we have events right here. This is another part of the analog community that we really want all of you guys to really own, is if you guys want to have an event, if you guys want to have like a Saturday morning, here's what's going on for, plant research and analogs, and just kind of talk about that, and that's what you're interested in, feel free to go ahead and own that. So we are asking that you talk to the moderators about doing these events, so we make sure we don't have too much crossover or anything, but just this is how you can see all the events coming up. And then talk to me, Brooke, or Benjamin. Those are the three big ones that are focusing in on the events. And just say, hey, I want to do this event on October 12th. Can you help me set it up? And we'll help you get it all set up on our end and everything. So that's a really cool tool that you guys can use to build your own community a little bit more and tailor it to the things you're interested in. Oh, and if you're curious about that, we can go over to the members page, like who can I talk to? Go to the members page, click hosts. And this is good just in general. These are all the people who are kind of the work behind AAC. So we've got Jazz and Cyan as hosts, and then all of us as moderators. A lot of us who are going to be talking today and stuff are moderators. So this is the list of people who, all of them should be able to help you if you need that. So I just went to members and then clicked the hosts tab if that's anyone needs that list. And then we have Explore conferences, which as everything grows with this community, obviously this page is going to get a lot more busy. But you can check out, we've got the 2021 and the 2022 conference. Soon we'll have the 2023. You can hop in here and see the agenda, watch the recordings. It's all right here for you guys to explore as you see fit. Let's see, and then back to network, home. We do want you guys to post about anything that you feel is relevant to the AAC community, cool research papers, maybe a research paper or a poster that you made, articles, anything that just kind of gets the conversation going. So it's very simple. I like space. It's super cool. Add a picture. You can create a poll with that and ask questions like, do you like space too? And then you can actually add a topic and link it to one of those topics that we were talking about. Let's say super relevant for Lunares to post this. Then you tag Lunares in there, just to keep everything a little bit more organized. Let's see. Then we've got up here, inviting someone is this little guy waving, which we do encourage you guys to invite all your friends because we want a big, happy community. Here are the personal messages, just like any other social media tool. You can private message people, so that's here. Notifications. Wow, we just got a whole bunch of people wanting to join real quick. That's exciting. I guess this is working. We just got everyone on the call. And you can change how you get notifications in that little cog on the stuff that you're getting notifications on and stuff. I just have all of mine set up, but you can decrease that as you want. And then the final one is your bio or your profile, which is always a fun, more creative part. Sorry, I'll do that again. That's, oops, there we go. So you have to click on this and then you have, what is going on here? Hold on, sorry, there we go. Click on the circle and then you have to click view your profile. Otherwise, it's just gonna take you to the home screen. So obviously I'm still working through mine, but I've got my picture. You can see I'm a moderator here in Tucson, Arizona. And then you can actually, this is really cool, you can add your personal links. So this is my website. So if I want people to go check out my website, they can click on it. Now you guys can go read about all the stuff I'm doing. And then these are the conferences I've been to. I need to add topics, but it really says everything about like how that person's involved. And I don't actually see it, but there's a place to do a bio as well. So I don't know why I don't see it, but here's my bio. It looks like I need to clean it up a little bit. But just I did a mini one of, you know, I'm an engineer, I'm the AAC Community Builder, master's degree. I did high Cs. That's how I tied into the analog world. And then I just like about talking about EQ in space. So this is just the snapshot of like, if someone has never met you before and wants to get to know you better, just high level, what is this person about? Here you guys go. And I'll put I'll eventually get to my longer bio here. And that should show up just on your personal page. And then you can go explore and follow people that you find interesting and all those different things. So this is really just a community building platform where it's just really easy to have access to everyone and talk amongst ourselves and get things really moving. So with that, any other questions on that? I know I kind of plowed through that, but I will hold for questions. And let me go ahead and put that link. I can find it real quick. I brought it up just to have it. So if you were
Ethan's
like,
posted the link, Bailey, so I think we're okay. Something I forgot to mention is please post your questions in the chat and we'll make sure we ask them to the person speaking. At the moment, I think you're good, Bailey, so please feel free to continue. And as anyone has any questions, like I said, post them in the chat.
Yeah, please, by all means, ask questions. Here's my space cat. She sometimes likes to come on, I guess. Sorry about that. She has a mind of her own. But yeah, I see a hand raised. Right? If you want to go ahead. Or not. Okay. Well, if you guys have any questions about
Thank you.
everything going on, feel free to message me, the other community builders. We can all help out with that. And just join, like I said, this is your blessing to go post and have fun with the community right now. You are now allowed to. So cool. Thanks, Jazz. If anyone has any questions, feel free to message me directly.
I think Rayut's trying to ask a question. So do you want to unmute yourself, Rayut? Or I can unmute.
No, listen, I'm in the middle of the desert. It's just a silly question. I'm sure you're going to post a link for this video because I'm not sure I'll be able to stay on, of course, right?
Yeah.
There's going to be a link.
Yes, this is being recorded and we will post the recording up into the Mighty Networks community forum that you just saw.
Mighty link for a mighty network. Thank you so much.
Oh, and I forgot to mention for the app, you do have to go into your Play Store or App Store or whatever and download Mighty Networks, and then you can go in that way through. So it is an app that's called Mighty Networks. It's not like an AAC app. So download the Mighty Networks app.
Yeah, and honestly, I really recommend using the app. I haven't used the desktop version or laptop version for a long time. It's just so much more convenient having it on your phone, because you don't generally get the notifications for everybody. So you kind of want to just, a little bit like you would with Facebook, just open it up on the app, scroll through, have a quick look. But back to you, Bailey.
No, I 100% agree. I do the same thing. You know, you wake up in the morning, you're getting ready to go, you check Facebook, you check Twitter, and you check Mighty Networks AAC just to see what's going on. It kind of flows the same way. So awesome. I think that's everything. So I guess Emily, back to you.
Cool. Okay. Thanks, Bailey. So that was a quick overview of the community forum. And like Bailey said, if you have any questions, please direct them towards her. But everybody in the community is super friendly. Message anybody. Don't, hesitate at all. So the next thing on our agenda for today is a little overview of next year's conference. So as Cyan mentioned at the introduction, our first in-person conference was this year in May. I can't believe actually it feels like it was a while ago, but it was only in May recently. And after the success of that first conference, we wanted to hold it again at Biosphere 2 again next year. So our conference next year is going to be on May 4th to May 7th at Biosphere 2 in Arizona. We're going to have next year's theme is going to be how analog research can be applied to the United Nations Sustainability Development Goals. Next slide, please. Okay, yeah, so before I talk a bit more about some of the new things we have lined up for next year's conference and how you can submit abstracts and get involved and buy tickets, I'm going to hand over to Brandy, who's going to talk more about some of the fun stuff we've got planned as well.
Start with the fun stuff, huh? Hello, everybody. Yeah, if you missed last year's conference, don't worry, you can have a great time at this next year's conference, and it's going to be even better. It's going to be a day longer, and that way we have time for all the stuff that Jazz will talk about, which is a new model for our conference and just amazing speakers and panels and an unconference style workshops and all of that. But it starts May the 4th, as all nerds need to celebrate, and we'll kick off with the opening celebration, and there'll be some entertainment that night. We'll be welcoming back Cosmic Perspective, which we're really excited to show you how that's developed over the last year. And also we'll be having some performers, Foxanne. There will be a full moon, so it won't be stargazing, it will be moon watching this time. So hopefully we'll have some good telescopes there for you as we did last year. And we'll get to look at the moon up close. As far as Friday night, we're hoping to have an arcade style event as well as a movie night, which got a bit derailed last time. So we've learned our lessons in the last conference, and we're hoping to premiere even a documentary about last year's conference. So excited about that, and we've got some other things going on there. Saturday night will be our big celebration, and we're going to have great entertainment and hopefully a cocktail hour for you. So we're still fundraising and we're still getting all the logistics together, but it will be fun. And we're also going to have some, not just parties, but some healthy things. We'll have some organized exercise events and maybe a run. We're looking at a Tai Chi on the Biosphere lawn, and some other things like that to just connect us and to get back to nature as well. So the original analog habitat, Biosphere 2. And then I guess I'll go on to the most exciting thing for me is that we will be running 2 analog missions, one before and one after the conference. It will be determined how long these missions are going to be. We know the crew size already. And we are going to be placing a crew call for a few slots that will be remaining. Something very exciting for us is that we will be partnering with Mission Astro Access, and I'm repping their shirt today, one of their shirts, to place some of their ambassadors in our analog mission. And it will likely be the first time that differently abled people will be able to participate in an analog mission. And then from there, the sky's the limit, and their space is the limit. So we're going to use that as a starting point to build accessibility, around here and in space. So we're excited about that. And I guess that's about it. Jess, back to you as far as the conference logistics.
Cool. Thanks, Brandy. Brilliant. So there has been a question in the chat that I'll answer first, which was, I think Nadia asked, are there any scholarships for students for the conference? So yes, we will be opening up scholarship applications soon. Watch the space in Mighty Networks. Most of our updates are first announced in Mighty Networks, and then we tend to post them on socials. So keep an eye out for applications for scholarships. Okay, yes. So as Brandy mentioned briefly, back please, Emily. So we are going to be doing our conference next year in a slightly different format. So we're going to go with a sort of hybrid conference, unconference style model. So this is something we're trialing, experimenting with. And really the idea behind this is to have not only the conventional presentations and panel model of a conference, but also have more sort of spontaneous discussions and workshop groups. So we had a few workshop groups this year, just gone. And it really was extremely helpful in sort of driving some of the challenges and projects forward that we're hoping to work together on as a community. So please come to the conference with your discussion ideas. If you have any challenges or problems you want to talk about, if there's anything you wish to discuss, bring it with you to the conference. You don't need to apply in advance for a session or anything like that. We will make an announcement closer to the time to give people more details about that sort of unconference model of workshops. We will also be having the conventional presentations as well. And I'll mention the call for abstracts on the next slide, I think that is. So the early bird tickets are up for sale. Please go ahead and visit our website. I think the link will be dropped in the chat. So you can get your early bird tickets. Those will go up for their $350 and they'll go up to $400 on December 15th. So if you want to get that discounted price, please go ahead and buy your ticket as soon as possible. So next slide, please. And now I think this is the call for abstract slide. Yeah, so if you do want to present at the conference, if you want to maybe propose a panel session as well, please use the call for abstracts form. Again, the link will be posted in the chat. It's all these links. If you go to our main website, which is analog-astronaut.com, the links for all of these things are on the main page. So we've got a little form for you to fill in. There will be an option for you to choose which United Nations Sustainability Development Goal your presentation is most applicable to, but there is an option for other as well. So if you feel that your presentation doesn't fit in with any of those, please select other. Don't be, deterred by that. Just select other and then just kind of explain roughly what the sort of main your talk what's the word I'm looking for, category, whatever you want to call it, is. I would also say, yes, so the talks are 20 minutes long and 10 minutes Q&A. So just like last time, similar sort of format. Panels, again, will be 45 minutes long with 15 minutes Q&A. So please go ahead and submit your abstracts. The deadline again for that is the 15th of December for the first round. And then we will probably open a second round as well for some more abstracts to be submitted, but we're giving priority to that first round of abstracts. Okay, what have we got next on the slides?
And I just want to mention one thing really fast is that we do expect this conference to sell out. It was popular last year, and unfortunately, Biosphere 2 only has a very limited number of accommodations. So we've capped our tickets at a certain level and a certain number, and we have to stick with that. So if you want to come, get your ticket early.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Brandy. We've got a couple more questions again in the chat, so I'll just have a quick scroll through that and see what we've got. So do you need volunteers for your community building initiatives? Great question, Nadia. So if you have a question about volunteering for the community, so that's the Mighty Networks website, please contact Bailey and she'll be able to help you with that. Will student scholarship applications open before ticket price goes up? We'll do our best, yes, to open scholarship applications this month. So definitely, yes, we will open that before the price goes up. And I see what the question is alluding to. Obviously, you want to make sure to be able to purchase a discounted price ticket in case you're not selected for a scholarship. Completely understand that. So we'll do our best to make sure that we do that in a timely fashion. We'll make sure we pick our scholarship students before the price goes up to the standard price. Okay, abstracts. Okay, cool. So I think that's all the questions in the chat. How are we doing for time? It looks like we're 10 minutes ahead, which is great. So
good.
That is good. We're doing well. So we have an option. We can start talking about the database, or we can take a break. It's up to you, Emily, since you're going to be, and Jenny, because you're going to be talking about the database next.
Maybe we can continue, I think, if there's no more questions, and then that leaves a little bit more time at the very end if people have general questions or they think of something that they didn't know they wanted to ask right now.
Yeah, that sounds good. We do have another question that's just popped up. And this one's for you, I think, Brandy. It's about the analog missions. And what are the dates of the 2 analog missions which have been planned before and after the conference?
So the exact dates are to be determined. We're still working with Kai at the Habitat, and we're still working with our sponsor to find out, you know, what can be done. So they will be announced, and we will obviously provide more information as we get that, and as we put that call out for the remaining slots of the missions.
And also I wanted to point out, I think Ryan made a really great point about the abstracts. When you guys submit your abstracts, they will be competitively selected. So just make sure that you're really clear about the content that you want to present. Great point, Ryan. Thank you. Okay. I think if we're good to move on. Okay, I don't know if Jenny is here yet, but I will go ahead and jump into the centralized database.
I'm here.
Jenny, are you? Jenny, oh, there you are. Okay, so Jenny, I'll let you take over the research, and then I'll go on to the next slide and talk about the analog astronauts.
Okay, fantastic. So we realized that when the habitats do research, that a lot of times nothing's published. No lessons learned, you know, topics for further research, things like that. So we really want to build on what's happening in the analogs and grow the body of research instead of doing duplicative research, like with plants, for instance, growing plants in different mediums. When I went out and looked, I saw that different habitats had already experimented with certain kinds of seeds, certain kinds of water and everything. So we want to build on it. We want to really grow the research that's happening. But we also want to serve the gaps that NASA and ESA and other agencies have in their research. And so we can tie what we're doing in the analogs directly to what NASA needs and what ESA needs. I mean, it would just be perfect because it would legitimize everything that we're doing. And also we're growing future astronauts, obviously, and people who are going to contribute to the space industry. So what a great thing for us to be able to do is fill the gaps. And when we sign up for an analog, usually the first question is, what kind of research are you going to do? What are you bringing to us? What do you want to do? And sometimes we're just at a loss. We have no idea. So this would be a great database we could go to, find something that we're interested in, do something really meaningful, and then grow the research over time. Possibly even at the analogs, we have to work with the directors, but maybe the crews pass off the projects. You know, we actually continue and build on what the past crew did and hand it off to the next crew. So that's what we're focused on here. And we are building this centralized database to capture the work that people are doing, and also we'll have a list of all the work that NASA and ESA, the gaps in the knowledge and how we can contribute to that, so that there's a place for us to go and find projects and meaningful research.
So on the research side of things, but then there's also the analog astronauts. So our goal with the database is also to provide kind of a platform for the analog astronauts and the analog habitats to find crews who are available. So individuals, they can, habitats can kind of look at individual profiles. They can look at their qualifications, their experience, and even maybe some training that they've had on the past. They can also look at their credentials and see maybe like a window of availability. And they can also see what positions and roles that they've played in past analog missions to fill a specific interest or experience level within the crew that the analog habitat is looking for. So it kind of acts as a database for research, but it's also providing this kind of this gap, or this bridge, I'm sorry, not a gap, but this bridge, and acting as an agency for the researchers and the analog habitats and the analog astronauts, so that we can all find everything in just one centralized location. So that's the analog astronaut side of things, just be able to create a profile for individuals. Is there anything you wanted to add to that, Jenny?
I don't think so. Nope. Perfect.
Quick question for you guys. From Charlotte, how are you working with other groups that are working on other centralized databases to prevent repetitive work?
Well, the goal with that is to work in collaboration with those individuals. And so I know Charlotte's also doing some really great things with some of her teams as well. And so the goal with that is to kind of just bring this topic to the community and kind of collaborate with anybody who are, anyone who is working on those kind of databases.
Looks like Shannon has her hand up.
Yeah, we have a raised hand. Shannon, do you want to unmute yourself?
Hi. First of all, I want to thank you for inviting me to the meeting. And I'm really excited to hear all the things that you have to offer. I do want to make one point, is that while this database would have been very valuable 10 years ago, now I actually don't see how. We've had several chapters of the Mars Society who have wanted to take this on as a project just for us, and I've discouraged it because it would be impossible to catalog all of the actual peer-reviewed publications just from MDRS alone. And I think that because it's not just papers that analog astronauts have written, it's all the additional papers that come from offsite researchers. I mean, kudos to you if you can do it, but I do want to let you know that in my opinion, it's a huge, huge deal, and you wouldn't do it. And those of you who know me know that I'm very plain speaking and I don't always talk flowery and perfectly, but you wouldn't do it for your own field. I mean, unless you do something, study something super obscure like I did when I studied androdiaceae in plants. You know, you're not going to find that you can list all the papers that have been published. That's just my opinion. And I just wanted to know how you were going to address that. And I know that the Chicago chapter of the Mars Society would love to help you, because I shot them down. But anyhow, I just wanted to know how you were going to include the papers that were not written by people active in the analog astronaut community.
Jenny, do you want to answer that?
That's a good question. We obviously just at the beginning of this idea, and yeah, I'm sure there's a massive amount of information. So I'm not sure. I mean, and I'd love to talk to you, Shannon, about past attempts to do this and what the issues were, you know, to try to figure out a way to move forward with it. I really don't know.
I think just from my perspective, I think that, you know, obviously, I think that it is going to be impossible to capture all of the research, especially things that don't actually come out of the analog habitat communities or the analog astronaut communities. But I think that it does give us a really good start to try to bridge that gap, because I speak with a lot of people in the analog astronaut community who are doing a bunch of really cool research projects, but there has been so much repetition with a lot of the research projects that are going on. And I think that one of the really cool things about this database is it gives people kind of a platform or an idea bank that says, you know, okay, this person did a specific analog habitat. They looked at team performance metrics with all female crew. And then somebody else, if they're wanting to do the same thing, but they don't really know about this other crew that did that already, they can kind of collaborate, they can talk, and then that second crew can just build off of that same research. So I think that, yes, I agree with you, Shannon. It is very ambitious to say that we're going to make an entire database that houses all of the research projects that have to do with analog habitats and analog missions, or research that goes into those. But I think that it just gives a platform for the analog astronauts and the researchers to come together and try to build on that. And like Jenny said, we are in the very beginning stages. So one of the reasons that we're having this session with the community is to have kind of an idea platform and have people collaborate with us and discuss about different opportunities and how they can get involved with helping on some of these projects.
Thank you. I think it's an awesome idea. I just think it's, I don't know. I've never found enough people who have been really, really that devoted that could do it. So I wish you all the best, and let me know if I can help in any way. And, you know, I agree with everyone that somebody said, isn't 60% of something better than none at all? And yeah, that's true. I hadn't considered that. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Jesse has a hand raised.
Hey, what's up, guys? Good morning.
Good morning, Jesse, or afternoon or evening, wherever you are in the world.
We're in San Pedro. Okay, so I just had a quick recommendation. Instead of putting a bunch of people together to bring the database, we can actually scrape it. So we can scrape the MDRS database or any database and implement it into the site. And that would just, I mean, that would be a couple code changes. So if you guys are interested in that, there's a few different applications like Octoparse that we can use to actually just gather all the information. That's all I want to say. Hi, everybody. I'm done.
Thanks, Jesse.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Jesse. I think that is one of the ideas that we had too, is going back and looking at other research and scraping some of those data banks. So yes, I will definitely be in touch with you about that. Someone in the chat asked if we were going to have a demo of the database. We will not, because we are still in the very early stages of it.
And I think you could start from here forward, when a mission's over, collecting, you know, if you have more time and resources, what would you have explored? Or in your research, what were your unanswered questions, more burning questions, you know, just so that other analogs can build and work on that. So it's kind of consolidating everything that has been done, but also thinking about now, what's happening right now and into the future. So maybe we're starting from here and working forward even. But again, very conceptual idea. So we're open to feedback, and thanks to Shannon for the feedback.
Yeah. Okay, I think if, does it look like there is any more questions?
There was a question from Troy about, I think he just wants a few technical specs of the database.
The research or the analog astronaut?
Either or both, I guess. But I think, again, because, so, sorry, I don't want to speak for you, Emily and Jenny, but we're at the stage where we're still deciding on the best platform, right? Mm-hmm. So we're exploring the options. So we don't really have technical specs to share with you at the moment, but that's something that hopefully we'll have pretty soon.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, so I will go ahead and move on to the next section. And that is me. So, okay. So the next thing that I want to share with you guys is that we've been talking a lot about standards and training just within the community. And that's kind of what my passion and my area of expertise is in. And so one of the biggest things with the big development of the analog astronaut community. I mean, it started 20 years ago with just NASA and ESA, but now we're getting to this point where a lot of people are wanting to become analog astronauts, and there's a lot of missions popping up. We have the longer running the habitats. We have like MDRS and Lunaris, and High Seas was a big one as well. But now we have a lot of other people who are putting together their own missions. And so one of the things that we've been talking a lot about is trying to identify what these standards for analog habitats and analog astronauts should be. And it's not in a sense to restrict or govern this community, because that's not by any means what we're trying to do. But we want to kind of establish this International Standards for Analogs Committee, mainly just so that we can optimize the fidelity and the safety and integrity of different research, and then also provide guidance for different training programs and activities. And the objective of this is to create this gold standard. So it gives opportunities for current analog habitats to kind of say, okay, we want to take it to the next level and meet these gold standards so that we can do more research that meets NASA or ESA standards. And then also it kind of can help us guide a framework for upcoming analog habitats that are becoming newly developed, especially with the emergence of the commercial space industry. And so some of those benefits that we've kind of seen is to be able to protect people. So everyone that's involved, whether it's the researchers, the habitat directors, mission control, or even the analog astronaut crew, and ensuring safety and quality control. But it'll also help us kind of promote this international collaboration, which will really help with one of our bigger projects that Jazz is going to talk to you about here in just a minute, about the world's biggest analog. So that's kind of one of the biggest goals of, or the objectives of establishing this, this international standards for analogs. So we've put together kind of just this proposed plan and nominating qualified individuals. I learned recently that the link for a nomination form is actually not working at the moment. So I will have to go in and fix that link here in just a minute. But we are going to start putting together qualified candidates to be on a board of directors for nominations for this specific committee to kind of draft out what these standards might look like. And I'll kind of, on this next slide, this is kind of just a tentative an estimate or a timeline for developing these standards. And it start out as very, very basic, but basically we collect nominations. The board would put together a draft of preliminary research and the outline of what these standards are. And then that board would meet to approve what those standards look like before they send them out to the public for the public's review. The public would then have an opportunity, or the community would have an opportunity to review them, provide feedback, because we really want this to be a collaborative effort within the entire analog astronaut community. People who are here now, and then also people who may not even know about this community yet. So we want to give people plenty of time to review that. And then the board would come back together, they would take a look at what this feedback is, and they would make the necessary changes. And then we would present this, we would publish or present this final iteration of what these standards might look like. Of course, they would be constantly reiterated and reviewed. But like I said, it wouldn't be necessarily something to mandate or be very strict with. It's just kind of, this is what the gold standard should look like according to this board and according to NASA and ESA for specific analogs and specific research that's going to be conducted there. And so with that, I'll also share, I'm also the CEO and founder of Interstellar Performance Labs. One of the biggest thing is we found a big lack of training within the community. And when I say training, I don't necessarily mean training with the operations or the systems or doing the research, but actually the physical and mental preparation that goes into some of these missions. There's differences in complexity of these missions, so not all training is going to look the same. But one of the biggest things that we're trying to achieve is working with analog astronauts and then also working with the habitat. So working with the analog astronauts, we're having we will have a publicly accessible curriculum and training program that's going to be launching in the spring of 2023. And then we're also going to be working with Analog Habitat specifically to do, or crews specifically to customize training programs for specific missions based on their objectives, what they're doing their research on, and where that specific mission is. And then also we're going to be providing some individual development tracks. So if you have a more physically strenuous environment that you're going to be working in, we'll have tracks for physical fitness, mindset, and leadership training, just to kind of really improve the overall safety and confidence level of those specific crew members. And then working with the habitats directly, one of the things that we're focusing on are human factors analyses for risk assessments so that we can provide a risk management program to the habitat and to the crews that they bring into their communities. The development of habitat specific training programs, like I said, not every habitat is going to be the same and not every mission is going to be the same. And so those training programs might look a little bit different, although the foundation is more or less the same. And so also providing the on-site training for incoming crews, organizing and helping with the coordination of different analog habitats. As I mentioned, I know that there's a lot of people that are wanting to put together their own analog habitats or their own analog missions. And so helping with the coordination and making sure that they have all of the resources that they need to put that together. And then also providing on-site and remote mission support from a perspective of human performance. So with a team of experts and psychologists and other people like that, we can really help support either mission control, the habitat organization, or the crew directly. And so one of the biggest things right now is we're working on strengthening these opportunities for the public and for the community. And so we are securing funding for that. So we put together a market research survey, which I think Ethan has shared with you guys in the chat. So I would really appreciate it if you guys would do that so that we could really make sure that we're strengthening all of our assets here with the crews and the habitats and the researchers. And I think that's it. I haven't looked at the chat if there's any questions.
There is a question from Alvin. Will this timeline be in coordination with the AAC timeline, i.e. final standard release?
That's a really great question. I would love for that to happen. I think once we get together the board, after we get the nominees and stuff, we'll all be able to talk and set a more concrete type timeline. I think once we start getting into the weeds of working with the standards and writing out what those standards might be, it might take longer or a shorter amount of time. So I'm really not sure, but I would love for it to be able to fall in line with the Analog Astronaut Conference so that we can release what that gold standard is. That's the goal anyways.
Copy of that.
Yeah.
There is a question about what is the nomination process for board members?
Yeah, so one of the things right now is a lot of the stipulations are in the form that for some reason the link is not working, but we would love for you guys to nominate people who you think would be a really great leader in the community. And some of that is definitely having experience as an analog astronaut, because I think that having that experience is applicable to being able to put together what those standards are. So having an experience as an analog astronaut, potentially organizing missions, and we would like someone to have a graduate degree or higher of education, and also just be a really reputable leader within their community. Even if they haven't done an analog mission before, experience in any sort of an extreme environment would be another great resource or experience. So I think once we get the nomination forms in, then we can really start to see what our pot looks like. Yeah. Sky, did you have a question?
Hi there. Nice to see everybody. Thank you so much for this amazing presentation, by the way. It's absolutely awesome. I just had a quick question about the program itself. So I'm currently an undergraduate student in electrical engineering, and I've co-founded a new analog astronaut mission at McMaster in Canada. And I was wondering what the opportunities would look like for kind of student undergraduate analog missions, or people who are kind of just trying to get started and break through into the industry. Do you have any opportunities or recommendations or anything of the sort?
Yeah, I think, obviously following the analog astronaut community is a really great start. There are a lot of habitat directors and mission organizers within this community, and they are posting different opportunities for different missions. Some of those requirements for selection some are more rigid than others, I think. It just really depends on the research that's taking place. I can speak on what our program is doing with Interstellar Performance Labs for the analog astronaut community. And with that, there really are no eligibility requirements for our foundations program. And so eventually we want to get into the space of being able to provide these experiences for younger students. So even 16 years and up, depending on what their experience level is, will depend on what the experience is that we can actually provide them. So that will be on a situational basis. But I think as a student, especially in undergrad, just being a part of the community and staying on the lookout for different calls for analog missions, and then following up with any sort of training that's provided by the community and with Interstellar Performance Labs. Does that answer your question?
Yes, that very much answers my question. Thank you again.
Yeah. Okay, I think
I think that's all the questions from the chat.
And Sky, I put some resources in the chat for you, being an expat. So those are some Canadian opportunities. Mission Control is actually international, but mostly based out of Canada.
Okay, yeah, thank you for the links and the recommendations. Really appreciate it. I'll pass it along to the rest of the team.
I'll also say really quick, you asked about the nomination process. And so the idea with this is to fill out the nomination form, which I will update the link for that soon. And then we hope to have all nominations submitted by October 31st. And then we will go through those nominations and send out official nomination invitations and then official board invitations after that. All right, I will go ahead and move on to the next slide.
Okay, cool.
Yep, go ahead.
So Emily already briefly sort of mentioned a little bit about World's Biggest Analog, which is the current title for what we're calling this, which is basically the idea behind this is to have all the analog habitats networked together and simultaneously conducting a research mission, and they would work in collaboration together. So the goal is to conduct scientific research, identify NASA research gaps, industry or academic partner research, and develop communication protocols between the different habitats to carry out the collaborative research. So the key terms here are really the kind of rigorous science and experiments and the collaboration between the different habitats. So it is a fairly ambitious goal, but we're hoping that the major habitat directors are going to be on board with this idea. I've spoken to a few of them individually, and so far so good, positive feedback. So really, I'm not going to talk too much in terms of slides on this. We're going to sort of open up maybe like a Q&A or discussion on this, and we'll do this at the end. So we want to cover really things like mission duration, research ideas, all the things you see listed on this slide. We, as the Analog Astronaut sort of community team, have been discussing this since the May conference. And so we've got a few ideas to throw out there, but really we want to do this in collaboration with the major habitat directors as well, which is why this is the first sort of discussion meeting on this topic, and hopefully the first of many more about this. So before we kind of go on to that discussion topic, there is I think it's on the next slide, a competition that I wanted to mention. Right, so a little bit actually talking to Sky's question as well is, and to what Cyan mentioned at the start, which is inclusivity. So we don't want this to just be about sort of the major habitats and sort of the major players. We want everybody to be able to get involved. And that's kind of been the theme throughout the community, is making sure that equal participation for everybody. So one of the ways that we're hoping to achieve that is we've thrown out this design research competition. The idea of that is that you yourself individually, or a team of up to 4 people, get to design a research project or experiment that you propose to be carried out during the world's biggest analog. So there's going to be a few rules to this, and more detailed rules can be found on the website that, the link is in the chat. There's a form, an application form in there, which you can fill in. The deadline for that isn't until April 8th next year. So there's a good amount of time to think about your research proposal and maybe form a team. And that's really going to be phase 1. Because we haven't decided the full sort of parameters of the world's biggest analog yet, we realized that it might be a little bit difficult to come up with a solid research proposal, which is why this is just a phase 1 proposal. So this is going to be a more high-level overview of what you're proposing, and then we're going to narrow it down through phase 2, which will be after the conference next year. So just the main rules are going to be that the research has to involve the major habitats that are involved. So it needs to be collaborative research, and it has to obviously be your own original work, or you must have permission to carry that research out. So those are kind of the 2 main important criteria for entering this competition. Anybody is allowed to enter. There's no age restriction. There's no restrictions of any kind, really. The research is what matters. So I think that's all I wanted to say on that. Emily, I don't know if you wanted to say something else, or if there's something on another slide that I need to see. Yes.
Yeah.
What the winner will actually receive. Yes. So if you are selected, or your team is selected as the winners of the research competition, then these are the things that the winner will receive, but basically you will get to participate in the world's biggest analog in some form or other. So you will become a formal member of the world's biggest analog mission team, and you will have the opportunity potentially to act as a crew member in one of the habitats during the world's biggest analog, or possibly as mission control. So you'll be identified as a member of the team, and your name will appear on the published reports and output from that mission. And you'll get to, like I mentioned, participate in the research, the analysis, and the publications. So it really is a great way to get involved in this world's biggest analog mission that we're proposing. This mission, I forgot to mention at the start, this is a longer term project. So we're sort of forecasting this to be something not until 2025, because it is going to take a lot of planning and preparation to get to that point. So that's why the deadline for phase 1 of this research competition isn't till April of next year. And then there'll be more time to narrow down on your particular research and refine it before you have to submit a final research proposal. I think that's probably it for the research competition. As always, if you have any questions about it, or you want to know more, you can reach out to me or any of the members of the team. There's a question, I think, in the chat. What is the biggest networking challenge you expect? Does the scientific community already do distributed experimentation and collaboration? What a great question. And that's what the biggest challenge is, I'm not certain of yet. And I think whatever we're expecting, we'll probably be surprised, and it'll be something completely different. So I'm excited to find out what the biggest challenge is going to be. So our plan is to carry out some precursor missions towards this eventual goal of the world's biggest analog. So you heard Brandy talking a little bit about the SAM missions that we're planning on conducting next year before and after the conference. One of the things we are planning to test during that mission is possibly networking that with one other habitat. So in a small way, we're testing this sort of networked habitat mission. And we're going to slowly do more of those kind of precursor tests before obviously we've got 2 years at the moment, so we're going to do quite a few of those tests before we get to the proposal for the main world's biggest analog. Does the scientific community already do distributed experimentation collaboration? The scientific community, I'm not sure if I understand your question, but the scientific community obviously collaborates all the time. If you mean in terms specifically to do with analogs, then I think there has been some collaborations between the habitats, but I think it's on a relatively small scale. So I do, and I could be wrong, so please, if somebody knows better, correct me, but I believe this will be a first to sort of network the analogs together. I'm just reading through the chat.
What habitats have already agreed to participate in WBA?
So no one has officially agreed because we haven't asked anyone officially, but like I said, I have been talking to people unofficially, the habitat directors. For example, I had a chat to Leszek from Lunares, who was very positive about it, and various others as well. And so there's been, because this is just the beginning of this particular project, there's nothing official or nothing in agreement yet. This is what this particular webinar meeting is about, really, is we're hoping, or one of the things, I think one of the next steps that we might want to take in preparation for the world's biggest analog will be to set up some meetings with people who are interested in participating. So that could be habitat directors, that could be academics, whoever, or anybody, students, whoever's interested in participating. We want to set up some regular meetings so we can drive this forward. So we'll think about the best way to do that and take those next steps. To clarify, can folks apply to multiple WBA? Is there a limit? What a good question. That's something I hadn't thought about, is could you be on multiple teams? You know what, for now I'm going to say you could be on multiple teams. Obviously don't be on like 20 teams, that would be a bit much, but I'm not going to put a restriction on that. Like if you want to submit more than one research proposal, then yes, I think that would be absolutely fine. Feel free to submit multiple research proposals. There's no limit. What's the next slide, Emily, just out of interest?
I just want to add to that. I think, while yes, I think that you can definitely submit more than one proposal, in the end, we would like you to only actively be participating on one of them when it all comes down to it. Yeah,
I mean, it's going to take a lot of your sort of time and energy to do that. Yeah. So certainly after phase 1, it will be limited at that point. At this early stage, phase 1, there's more leeway.
Yeah, and then the next slide is just basically call to action. So here are all the people that you guys can contact regarding different things. I didn't put anybody's contact information here because you can easily find us in the Analog Astronaut community. And if you have any specific questions, just reach out to us directly there. And then also just different ways of getting involved. Obviously the abstracts, the WBA research competition, submitting your survey for the training, and then also nominating someone for the international standards for analogs. And I will, like I said, I will be updating that link for the ISA, and we will be dropping all of these links in the Analog Astronaut community on Mighty Networks.
Awesome. So shall we, so now basically officially all the slides are over. So thank you for everybody who spoke. Thank you for everybody questions. We're now basically, we have time to continue with the questions and discussions. There's a few more questions about the world's biggest analog. So I guess before I answer specific questions, I'm going to throw out some of the ideas that we've had so far. So mission duration proposals have been between 2 weeks to a month long. I personally would love to shoot for at least a month long duration of a mission, but these are all just discussion points. One of the ideas that we had was, so this is addressing the kind of inclusivity, is almost having 3 layers to this particular world's biggest analog mission. So you've got on the top layer, the well-established analog habitats. So, like MDRS, Lunaris, etc., all of those. Then on the second level, you have the newer up and coming analogs, some of the people who are trying to become established, who are still setting up their analogs. And then the final layer, which is basically almost anybody who can participate from the comfort of their own home, as it were. But each layer obviously participates to a different degree to the other, but there is still a level of inclusivity there. So that was an idea that was proposed as well. Obviously, the main top layer of that, the established analog habitats, they will be conducting, as I mentioned, like the rigorous scientific experiments and research. And then down to the bottom layer where you have just individuals participating, that's more of an outreach activity. So that's more of a giving people a flavor or a taste for what it's like to participate in an analog mission. So let's have a quick look. And so there's a bunch of next steps that we need to take. And one of those, aside from obviously collaborating with everybody here and anybody else who's interesting, is and setting up these sort of regular meetings, is also identifying the research gaps that we wish to address, the possibilities, the things that academia, NASA, ESA, industry are interested in researching. So we need to identify broad topics first, and then the best way that I'm suggesting doing it is basically reaching out to the individuals and actually speaking to them. First port of call can be doing a quick search on the internet, but really we need to speak to the individuals. So that will be kind of one of our next steps, which will be to actually reach out to individuals conducting the research and ask them specifically what they might be interested in and what's important to them. So I think we should probably go through some of these questions that are coming through. I'm sort of losing track of quite a few of them. So I don't know if Emily, you've been keeping track of the questions.
Yeah, so one question from Nadia. She says, since this will be a worldwide collaboration, this will be very important for each country in terms of developing research industries and putting themselves out there. How will you ensure inclusivity while also prioritizing new research?
Yeah, so I hope one of the things I said that actually addresses that, which is the sort of the different layers of involvement in this mission. So we're prioritizing new research with, say, the top layer, which is the established analog habitats. And we're ensuring inclusivity through things like the research competition or the lesser established habitats who also get involved. So the new up and coming habitats that are cropping up in all kinds of locations around the world. So the idea is not to exclude anybody, but to establish to what degree they can participate and what level of fidelity their particular habitat is at and what the mission is. And so this kind of ties in a little bit with the standards that, Emily, you were talking about as well, is because once we've established kind of the fidelity of each analog habitat as well, the kind of research they can conduct, then we'll have a much more solid grasp of the degree of involvement that each individual and each habitat can involve themselves in, and each mission as part of the big mission will be able to be involved in. I don't know if that answers that question or if I got the sort of gist of it right.
Perfect, thank you.
Trying to see if there's any more specific questions.
Yeah, I just read Troy's comment about the concept of connecting multiple habitats is really important, because that's the type of thing we'd have to figure out when we establish moon bases and stuff as well. And I forgot to mention that, yes, that's exactly one of the points of doing this, is exactly that, is at some point we will hopefully have off-world, off-Earth settlements, and they're going to be disconnected and they're going to have to work together. And so that's one of the things that we hope to address with this.
Someone just said that they have a general question about the community. It says a Zoom user, so I don't know.
Does Zoom user want to?
That's me. Am I okay to talk here?
Yeah, please do.
Sorry. So I'm driving right now, so I logged in on my phone. I guess that's why it's saying Zoom user, but This is Ben Stanley. I'm a master's student at Stevens Institute of Technology, finishing up a master's in space systems engineering and doing my thesis on analogs. I'm just curious about the community, if there have been discussions or thoughts about if there's going to be any emphasis on having the community be a place to list like job opportunities and stuff for people who are looking to work in the analog community. I know it might be a little bit like not very well funded and rely on a lot of volunteers. But I'm just curious if
So we lost, you broke up a little bit there and we lost you, but I think I got the gist of the question, which was, will we be having job applications in the community?
I get better now. I'm sorry.
I don't know. Do you want to say something again quickly, because you're still breaking up?
Hear me? Can you hear me
Yeah,
now?
just about, yeah.
So yeah, I was just,
No. No, I'm afraid you're still breaking up. I'll try and answer what I think might have been your question, which was about job applications potentially, or opportunities like that being posted in the community. So individuals can post well, pretty much whatever you like. Obviously, as moderators, we'll keep an eye on what's being posted in the community, but I don't want anyone to feel hesitant on what they can post. However, having said that, it's not really designed to be a jobs board. So volunteer opportunities, absolutely. But at the moment, we don't have any intention of kind of going down that route of offering up job opportunities. If, for example, in the past, like, I don't know, if a habitat director needs help with something, they want to highlight a job opportunity that's available, again, like it's okay to post something like that in the community, but there's going to be no official support from the community itself, as in like the network or us as the team behind that to create some kind of sort of job opportunities, I don't know, section or board on the community itself. So unofficially, you can post things. Officially, no, we're not supporting job opportunities.
Elliot has asked, is there a list or map of current, past, and future analog sites? Elliot, actually, I do have one. I have not made it public only because I haven't actually saved it or finished it because it's not completely completed. But I will share that within the community over the weekend so that you guys can have access to that. I think that would be, it's kind of fun to look at actually. But yeah. Do you think children could imitate this in their schools and support, but as sort of a science day as part of, for example, a STEM or ambassador collaboration?
Yeah, I mean, so we were talking about this in one of our meetings, was getting kids involved. And that was the third layer of what I sort of mentioned in the idea of having these three different layers or multiple layers of involvement. There's actually, I think Frederico's here actually possibly, but there is some people, Frederico, I know in Mexico, who's setting up his own analog habitat, and it's going to be attached to a school, I believe. Well, that's one of the ideas. In that way, children or school children can get involved. But again, yes, we would like to have school kids involved in the world's biggest analog. How we're going to involve them in that obviously is still up for discussion and plans, but it's something that we're definitely thinking about and we'd like to keep thinking. And if anybody has any ideas they want to suggest out for any of this, and especially the involving kids, then please, send these ideas our way, because we're very open to this.
Malika asked, do you consider NEMO, Pangea, and other official ESA NASA analogs into the WBA?
We'd love to. if NASA and ESA are interested, which we hope they are, then yes, that would be definitely considered. I think Marufa's got a hand up.
Thank you. Really exciting to see you all, like some familiar faces. So I have two questions. One is, what are the timeline for abstract submission or the conference coming? And second is, do you think we will have a Zoom meeting like on a regular basis about all the agenda we discussed? Thank you.
Yeah, so the deadline for the abstracts was, I believe, the 15th of December for the first round of abstracts. So please submit your abstract to speak at the conference before the 15th, if you can. There will probably be a second round after that, but priority is given to the first round. So future Zoom meetings, yes, we definitely like to have future meetings. So there'll be possibly two ways of doing this. One will be what Bailey was discussing at the start, where we're hoping to get almost like webinars or workshop meeting discussions going in the community, in the forum. And these can be proposed by anyone in the community, anyone in the forum. So that's one way we want to get regular sort of online meetings going. And then, as I was sort of talking about the world's biggest analog, to drive that forward, I think we're going to need a number of meetings. Now, we as a team meet regularly anyway, but we need to meet with, obviously, everyone who wants to be involved in World's Biggest Analog. So I am considering and proposing potentially having multiple meetings going forward, driving with the specific discussion topic of World's Biggest Analog, because of all the things we've discussed today, that's the one that's going to take the most amount of planning, and this is the most ambitious project we have. So open to suggestions as always. What I was going to do was speak individually to the Habitat directors and ask them if they would like to be involved in regular meetings with us to push this forward. If they agree, then we'll set up regular meetings and we'll invite anybody who's interested in participating in those. And there'll be like discussion meetings like this, you know, workshops. There won't be us sort of sitting up here and presenting. Emily, do you have anything you wanted to say to that?
No, I was just going through some of these questions and comments here. I know there was some talk about submitting an abstract on the topic of standards for putting together these different habitats. Also, of course, on the topic of setting up Zoom meetings, if anybody has any ideas and suggestions specifically for developing the international standards for analogs, please definitely reach out to me. I see some people are interested in that topic as well. Let's see.
What's Ethan's question? Can we address some of the world's biggest analog research asynchronously so that it's not... So Ethan, if you mean during the mission, I don't know, do you want to unmute and sort of ask the question? I'm not sure I understand.
So yes, there were some comments in the chat regarding just kind of the broadband connections between the analog stations while we're trying to do this research. And I mean, kind of you hit on too, like, you know, in the future when we do have these off-world settlements, there's going to be communications delay, latency, all that plays into interaction between different settlements and the research being done, but some of that could still be handled asynchronously just by having it planned out well in advance. People kind of the way we use like forums here for asynchronous communication, so somebody can post something and it doesn't have to be a real-time interaction. People can come to it, do their bit, interact with it at their own pace, at their own availability, things like that. Just a thought I have.
Yeah, and it's a really great point. It's one of the sort of considerations. It's one of the things we need to figure out. You know, it's not relying on real-time conversation all the time and bandwidth concerns and things like that. That's exactly some of the communication protocols that we need to sort of go through and cover, and how we're going to deal with these sort of challenges during this mission. So it's exactly these sort of things that we're hoping this sort of mission will work towards addressing here as an analog, before, you know, you end up with some kind of settlement on off-world, on Moon, Mars, wherever it might be. I'm just scrolling through the chat again. Emily, I don't know if you've seen anything. Or anybody else, if you've seen anything. Or anybody, if you feel like just you want to shout out, raise your hand or talk, that's fine as well, because we are just sort of scrolling through the questions in the chat at the moment, so it takes a little bit longer to do that.
Hey, Jess, it's Terry here in San Francisco.
Hey, Terry.
Hiya. Thanks to all of you and the team for doing this. It's spectacular. Thank you. One of the things I remember Kai was, it was important for him at Biosphere was that we be 100% sustainable. Means, you know, reduce trash, all of that. I think you remember that conversation. I do think that we probably should take the initiative, maybe even this time around, to, you know, allay any of his issues he might have.
For the conference, absolutely, yeah. We're gonna try harder for the upcoming conference next year to try and be as sustainable as we can. So that is definitely on our mind, 100% for sure, yeah. And we'll work with Kai as usual to sort of try and do that as best we can. There's definitely room for improvement from last year, and we're hoping we'll be able to manage some of that this year, or next year, I should say.
We did learn some valuable lessons last year, though, about how to be sustainable and how maybe it's harder than you think it is.
Very much so, yeah.
Especially with such a large group.
Yes. Which is why we're going to reuse our conference bags from last year.
That's true. That's not even a joke.
No, it's not a joke.
There's a question in the chat for WBA. Do you expect NASA and other space agencies to get involved as well? I hope so. NASA is a big one that we want to reach out to. 100% yes, we want NASA to be involved with this. That is quite important.
And I'll just say really quickly, we do have contacts at NASA. I mean, several of us do, and some of us probably even work for NASA, you know, so we have contacts there, and sometimes it'll just be like them maybe helping with research plans or helping us maybe guide this endeavor that we're trying to do. But yeah, the goal is to get every habitat possible to participate. And as Jas alluded to before, we won't exclude anyone. We want kids, we want teens, we want, you know, undergrads and, you know, postdocs and the rest of you to participate in this. So.
And yes, that includes JAXA, Alvin, because yes, we've said a lot about NASA and ESA, but yes, that includes JAXA and ISRO and anybody else who wants to be involved in this. 100%.
How about Roscosmos?
And tradespeople, and tradespeople, because we're gonna need tradespeople working in space, not just scientists and researchers, but you know, the people that help us do our day-to-day things. Skilled tradespeople.
Yeah, completely. So I think, so what we propose to do, so this is, I guess, again, just my suggestion, is we bring this to the conference next year when we're all together in person, and we can have a good discussion about world's biggest. So in the meantime, we're still working towards it, definitely, but that will be a great opportunity to sort of pin down some of these questions, people's ideas, and move this forward. So that's what I'm sort of proposing. So that will be part of the unconference side of things. It'll be a workshop session. It'll be a discussion session. In the meantime, I think I've already said this, but if you want to reach out to us about this, please do. You can reach out to any one of us, any of one of the team who have spoken today, or if you go into the Mighty Networks community, if you just click on hosts, you can reach out to any one of the hosts, moderators or hosts. I think I probably said everything I wanted to say. So I don't know if any of like Brandy or Bailey or Emily or Jenny or anybody else wants to say anything that I might have forgotten. Or if I've missed any questions as well, I might have done. In fact, yes, I can see a question.
I think there's a lot of good questions coming in here. I don't think we're going to have time, necessarily to go through all of these, because these are deep topics that can have a whole, hour-long discussion on one of them. So these are going to be great questions to bring to our Zoom meetings, to obviously to the conference next year for our unconference or our panel or whatever we do with this WDA.
Yeah, so we have like a core team that works on these individual projects that we push forward. So I guess I'm just going through how we tend to operate. So we have a database team and we have a world's biggest analog team. What we'll do is we'll continue with our team meetings, but we'll develop a core group for each one of these outside of just us. So we'll have a core group of world's biggest people wanting to participate in world's biggest analog. I will put together a list of those people. If I've missed anybody, I'll announce it in the Mighty Networks community. So if you've not been invited, then you just like message me and I'll add you to that as well. And we'll set up the next meeting for that. But like Brandy said, a lot of these are quite deep questions. We've got everything in the chat recorded, so we can go through these questions and think about, addressing a lot of these suggestions and questions as well. So we'll do that.
The only thing I was going to add on is definitely use the Mighty Networks as well for some of these questions, especially if it was like I love the one about getting schools involved. That's a great thread. If you guys want to ask that question, then people can comment and get excited about that. So just from the community side, don't forget, to use Mighty Networks for that as well.
Yeah, the community is the core of all of this. So, everything we do, it starts from the community. So the Mighty Networks is the place where, like I said, we will be going to first before we reach out in any other way. So if you want to find out something, if you want to ask a question, if you want to know what's going on, the Mighty Networks is the place.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point, Bailey, because it allows everybody who's interested in that specific question to kind of have a discussion about it and encourage more questions and keep the conversation going. So definitely ask your questions there.
Okay, so I think we are officially finished. Just want to say thank you to everybody. Thank you for everybody who attended, everybody who spoke. This has been a great discussion, meeting, information session, whatever we want to call it. Hopefully the first of many. Pretty excited about next year's conference and seeing you all in person, as always. That's much nicer than Zoom, but this will do in the meantime. Any last questions or comments from anybody, please feel free now to say anything. Otherwise, I think we will call that a finish. Oh, wait, we do. Regard. Regard. It's so good to see you. Please unmute.
What's up? Hi. Hi, everyone.
Hey.
Nice to meet you again.
It's great to see you. For people who don't know Regard, I met her in Jordan through Mac's Borderless Labs initiative, Blink Borderless Labs. It was a space camp in Jordan, analog themed space camp, and it was fantastic. He's doing great work for these sort of these kids out there. I say kids, sorry, young people out in Jordan, and it's fantastic. Yeah, please go ahead.
Just I want to thank you for this amazing chat, and thank you, everyone. Nice to meet you all.
Thanks, appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, right, so cool. I put these last contacts up here, this slide back up in case anybody, if you wanted to take a quick picture of it. Of course, again, we're all in the Mighty Networks group, but that way you have an idea of who to reach out to about something specific if you want to get involved in a way. So yeah, thank you guys so much. This is fun.
Thanks, Emily. All right, thank you. And I think we'll call that an end. All right. Have a great rest of your evening, afternoon, morning, whatever it might be for you. Enjoy your weekend, and yeah, we'll be in touch soon.